Hello and good day. This is Ron Warnowski, Signals Defenses. Today we're going to cover a presentation that's specific to a secure work environment. So here's the question I have for anyone listening to this presentation. Where within your facility do you go to have a meeting that handles sensitive IP or classified information? Hopefully if it's classified, that location meets certain standards within the U.S. government, ICD 705, et cetera. If it's the commercial industry, hopefully there's something appropriate. And really where I'm getting at is the three disciplines of security, IT, physical, and technical, are being held to a high standard to lower your risk of loss of information. So we're going to cover just that. Defining and creating what that secure work environment can be for your organization. So your standard conference room may look like this, but chances are it has some of this technology within it. The technology is, something as simple as C, which is a smartphone, which there's a lot of those, about 12.5 billion of them according to Cisco. Polycom, audio conference D. Laptops, E and F, mouses, video conferencing, J is access point. The AP is standing up your wireless comm in that room. I is a listening device. So hopefully your room doesn't have that, but in case it does get in there, the purpose of today's presentation is show you how to mitigate the threats associated with all of these products that are used within a conference room to ensure you lowered your risk. H is an operational laser mic, operates on the technique of an RF signal that penetrates your location and comes back out, and that information is modulated. It picks up sound, right? So it's the ability to put a bug in your location without physically putting a bug in your location. So that's a lot of these products. We're going to discuss how to mitigate the vulnerabilities associated with them with the creation of a secure work environment. So here's what's happening in the world today. A lot of investment's been made into the physical and IT security disciplines. In addition, there's been huge deployments of wireless technologies for efficiencies and productivity. However, those products all operate and communicate wirelessly, which is defined, if it's Wi-Fi, it's 802.11. If it's cell, there's multiple techniques that the carriers use, whether it be Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, and certainly if it's Bluetooth. But the bottom line is it's radio frequency or RF energy that is transmitting into the atmosphere. So if you do deploy wireless technology, be aware that information will be surpassing certainly your physical control points, especially if you have windows in those locations, because windows do not block or have much resistance to the transmission in or out of radio frequency information. Walls do to a degree, but you can fortify them. Again, we're going to go back to a secure work environment. This is not obviously a secure work environment. So the dilemma that we have to address, where's this location I can go to have a secure conference is, well, there's three areas: IT, physical, and technical. Technical is based upon, the old school Tempest, which means emanations coming off any electronic equipment can be collected, and from that collection they can modulate out keystrokes, screen information, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the old Tempest arena, and that's why most operations that were sensitive were handled within a SCIF, certainly within the government, and the SCIF's purpose was to stop those emanations from escaping, or certainly someone filling the space with RF energy and having it modulate and come back out. Technical surveillance countermeasures, TSCM, that part of the discipline is, I'm sure you've heard of people sweeping for bugs, et cetera, et cetera. So that's that piece of that. And then MSEC is emission security, and that is specific to we're controlling those emissions. So that's the dilemma, is the security organization covering all three fronts, and all, by the way, there's a merging between them. I don't know how organizations define IT or cyber anymore. The cameras are running on an IP network, so is that physical? Is that IT? You can see there's a merging and blending of all those. So the key here is for you to truly secure this location that we want to have a conference in, you have to monitor, measure all activity, in the three disciplines. You have to manage all activities in the three disciplines, and only then can you be assured that you're secured, unless, of course, your risk tolerance is quite high, and you roll off of that. So let's take a look at the step one approach to build this location. Secure work environment starts with a threat and vulnerability assessment that looks at all three disciplines. I'm assuming here that diligence has been done in the IT and the physical space. So locks and alarms and firewalls and authentication and encryption have been implemented. Usually the organization has not taken a good hard look at technical. And why has that become very, very important? That's because of bring your own device and mobility issues. All of those products and devices have the ability to transmit their ones and zeros through the atmosphere, and that isn't specifically addressed by physical unless you buy miles and miles of land and put it in there and it attenuates through free space, but chances are you don't have that liberty to do that. So step one, we do the assessment that covers all three disciplines, and then we apply that specific to the organization's risk tolerance and to the investment that they're willing to make to lower that risk to create what we call a secure work environment. So the approach is identify those assets, perform the threat and vulnerability assessment. Once we identify those, determine the countermeasures to remediate those threats and vulnerabilities, tie that to risk and investment, and then once you merge those three domains, you have in the middle what we call a secure work environment. And again, that's the location where you have secure meetings. So on the technical side, we want to control the RF battlefield. So really, we take that holistic approach. We do that assessment, and out of that assessment, we defined a requirement for architectural shielding that has the ability to block RF and infrared. All right, and we marry all of those components of risk, the countermeasures, and your investment for a balance that you're comfortable with based upon the level of sensitive information you're handling in that specific location. The issue is that the threats, as you've done diligence with the physical side and within your organization and the IT side, the more difficult the threat is, it moves to other areas. So what we're finding is with the 12.5 billion wireless devices, according to Cisco, that are on planet Earth, that there's a myriad of vulnerabilities associated with those, and that's the path of easy resistance, both from a cost standpoint and a ubiquity standpoint, right? So back in the 80s, when I worked for the government, I did everything in a metal box, but we live in an information sharing environment now, so that information is showing up in areas where it's not a metal box, right? So it's a standard office building, maybe it's lease space, maybe it's a Starbucks for that matter, but at the end of the day, information that is sensitive is starting to show up in areas that it never used to. In those areas, what we're saying is if you're going to handle sensitive information, you need to turn that area into a secure work environment. So we do that here at Signals Defenses. We took one of our conference rooms in the Advanced Research Center, and we deployed technology and common construction material such that we could lower and shield the RF energy and infrared energy. We did 700 square feet, came in around $65 a square foot. You can look at some of these images. We use standard TVM foil as a layer. Now, if you put that up in the standard method, you really don't get much attenuation, but if you do the techniques that we propose, that foil will get you to 50, 60 dB. We received about 30 dB plus of attenuation in that conference room. So each component, whether it be the walls, the ceilings, and floors, we addressed, and the windows, of course. Fortunately, here at Signals Defenses, we've got 6 patents on the SD technology, which is both the de facto and written standard within certainly the U.S. government, but now it looks like the 5 Eyes were becoming the standard in those locations, and some global 10 companies who are becoming the standard. So we lowered the attenuation levels in there by about 33 dB. Now, if you understand decibels, it's a logarithmic function, so those are magnitudes of attenuation, or 99.99% of attenuation. I believe we, in those numbers on the slide, the 25 dB and 58 dB, those numbers added the ambient floor. So those are probably closer to, less than 10 and then less than 40. We're around that 40 mark. So which is pretty good. You're talking 99.999% attenuation. Well, why would we do that? Well, remember the wireless technology and the RF energy, we're going to contain it. The key component on the secure work environment is securing those windows. There's multiple reasons for that. Certainly if you talk to an architect, they like natural light. You talk to Generation Ys, they like windows. I like windows too. So with our SD technology, we have the ability to put up the world's most optically clear but highest RF IR and really UV attenuating substrate. So when you marry all three of those, it's the best in the world, and it blocks that both in and out, right? So that's a pictorial of how it operates, but that's a key component because the windows as is, whether they're low E coated or not, you get relatively no attenuation, maybe 5 dB of attenuation. The walls, even without the foil, are going to give you maybe 10, 15 dB. So, we're looking to lower that level as far as we can. So if you look at the offerings that we have, we have 2 levels of window coatings. This is predicated on that SWE assessment. So what we look at, of course, in the technical discipline of that SWE assessment, we look at your controlled space outside your prem. We call that inspectable space. So how far is the fence line from your building? Based on that determines the level of attenuation that should be up on those windows. And there's other factors, of course, how much processing are you doing, how dirty of an environment, how many cell towers around you. So we do a pre and post RF test on that, and then we determine the level of countermeasures for the walls, ceilings, floors, and certainly the windows. And this gives you an idea. Now, I will tell you, aesthetically, the SD1000 at 70% visible light transmission. If we put it up and you have any type of low E window, you won't know it's there. The 2500, which is now the standard, has taken over the grand market share within DoD and the Intel world, is 53. So there's a good chance that aesthetically, because it goes on the innermost pane of the window, won't have that much of an impact on the aesthetics. These technologies come as laminated glass as well, and laminated polycarbonates in case you have ballistic requirements or physical requirements. A point to note, very important point to note, is that because we defeat laser mic technology, and you're looking at a column that says IR, that's infrared, less than 3%, less than 1%, we are very energy efficient. So we block the sun's energy. So if you scoot over 2 more columns from infrared, you'll see total solar energy rejection, 50%, 70%. Very sustainable, energy efficient deployment. We actually have clients who have purchased our technology through energy savings companies. So they're not even our clients, the energy company who is our client. They deploy it. If you have a lot of square feet of windows and you face the south, you're in a warm environment, this thing will have an ROI for you. So that's really good news. And then both in the laminated polycarbonate form, both of our technologies, as well as we have a 10 mil thick interior film that could go on the windows, along with various attachment systems. We can give you a level of physical security. So to round this out, here's the net. We can give you secure work environment protection, which is blocking the RF IR with our technology. We give you significant solar energy rejection with the technology. We can also give you that physical glass fragmentation advantage as well. So there's 3 solid properties by deploying the single product. So here's where we're going. Here's what it looks like. We build this secure work environment. We take care of the walls, floors, ceilings, and windows, and then we also take a look at your IT and your physical should you need that. And we build out a passive, architecturally shielded location where you can have your sensitive meetings. So what is it doing? It's keeping your ones and zeros within. your structure so that it's not in the public domain. That's called security by denial. You are denying your adversary access to any of your ones and zeros, whether they're encrypted or not. You're also denying your adversary the ability to flood your space with energy, be it RF or IR, so that it can get modulated signals back to exploit your organization. So the beauty of that is it's passive. It's always up. It's always there. So no one needs to reboot something or reload the latest signature or, load the latest patches or anything like that. It's always up. It's the walls. It's the glass. It's the ceilings. It's the floors. So very good layer of security and depth, if you will. So here's the actual performance facts. And the question comes up a lot with the secure work environment. What if I just do the Windows with the SD technology of a location I want to turn into a secure work environment? Well, first off, I will tell you that is priority one. There's a couple policies within certain governments that says we need a whole secure work environment. We need to do that RF test before and after, but let's get those windows done because they are the proverbial hole that the whole world can come in and we can let everything out. So let's plug those holes. So let's put up the technology. What this graph depicts, those blue spikes going across the electromagnetic spectrum are spikes of RF energy that exist before we put the window film up or the SD technology. We put up SD 2500. Now, if you recall back, it averages 45 dB, but remember, we're putting this up on a whole facade, so it's only one component of the whole suite. But my point is, if you look at the difference between the blue spikes and the green spikes, you're getting a 10 to 15, some areas are even more, maybe even to 20 dB. So you get 99% reduction, 99.1% reduction. Well, so that will contain your signals and keep the the signals that you don't want out. So that's the beauty of just doing that. Now, if you do the walls and whatnot, if you remember that slide where I showed you what we did here in the Advanced Research Center conference room, that green barring went down under the blue 30 dB. So you're talking 99.99%, right? So here's the last piece of the secure work environment. This goes back to what your risk tolerance is, and if we take a look at your IT, physical, and technical policies, we believe once we clean that RF environment for you, your in-place monitoring system, should you have that, will work better. Why? Because we lowered the floor, the RF floor, and any rogue signals or transmitters that are in your location are going to stick out like a sequoia in the middle of the desert, right? So there's a lot of monitoring systems out there specific to cell, Wi-Fi, etc. And this will help those devices work even better, be more efficient, more alertable, less false positives. Here at Signals Defenses, we have an organic effort, we believe, tied to the suite. If you do this thing right, you want to look across the spectrum. So we will not only be band specific, we're going to be sweeping the entire band. Why? There are, $50 bugs, listening devices you can buy from a couple countries that do a great job around 400 megahertz. Actually frequency hop. So if you have something sweeping the environment, it can alert you to that. I'm sure one question, you're looking at the slide, you're saying, well, I got to let my people have their bring your own device. Well, once you do that, there's a number of technologies that allow you to manage those devices, whether they be cell, right, or they be Wi-Fi. You manage what can go in or out, right? So you give authentication for in and out. There's some organizations that have policies that my organization must allow the employees to have personal devices in case of emergencies, et cetera, et cetera. We still have the ability to manage that and manage it properly in addition to your in-place monitoring, and it's done at a much easier effort because you're blocking external signals, so they are forced to use the technology you provide to support their Wi-Fi or cell signals, so you can see you can manage it better. So that's our secure work environment all the way to the level where we're putting actually measuring, monitoring, and managing within the environment as well. So if you're interested, step one is the assessment. I can't stress that enough because we have to tie those three. We do the threat and vulnerability assessment. We find out where all the vulnerabilities are. We tie that to your risk tolerance as well as the investment that you feel to lower to the appropriate risk tolerant level. And this is our walkthrough. I want you to know that of the 700 locations, we help our clients through the whole process. We have clients where we're their security authority. We create threat matrices, 705 or a customized version for our commercial clients. We walk them through the construction of the suite. We know a number of contractors that do a great job at the suite. We have, within the Advanced Research Center, we have actually electronic countermeasure design and engineering. We do field testing to show you that what you built performs. So we'll help you through the whole process, and that's the point. That something as simple as, well, can you take a look at my policy? So I'm building a suite. Do I let people in with bring your own devices or not? If you do, well then there's countermeasures associated with that. If you don't, there's probably a lower amount of countermeasures associated with that. So we'll help you walk through that whole challenge of creating that secure work environment. And the key to this thing is, I need a place where I can go, where I can be confident that these meetings are done privately and securely. So a little bit, Signals Defense is located in Owings Mills, Maryland. We are the de facto and written standard for a number of governments and really global 100 companies, certainly the vertical leaders in petroleum and software and finance we do business with. And there's certainly a number of private endeavors, residences, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope this is helpful. There's our contact information on the slide. Please, if you are looking at doing that, just that, creating a space to have privacy and confidence of your sensitive meetings, contact us. We're more than willing to work with you and take a quick look and do an assessment for you to see how feasible it is to perform that in the location you're at. So once again, thank you. Have a good day, and hopefully we'll be talking to you soon.